Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Eric, and today this video comes to you by suggestion from a viewer. Actually, he asked me to make a comparison between a kaboat, an inflatable kaboat, and an inflatable dinghy. So let's get right to it. All right, first thing we're gonna do is look at the immediate differences of each one. A kaboat tends to be more narrow, as you guys can see. An inflatable dinghy, however, tends to be a lot wider inside. See? It's a little dirty because I was walking all over it. But yes, those are the immediate differences of a kaboat and a inflatable dinghy. Inflatable dinghies, for the most part, tend to come with a inflatable keel. In comparison to the kaboat, it is actually flat. Mainly because kaboats, you're gonna be using a kaboat mostly on rivers and lakes, sometimes on the ocean, depending on the weather. Be mindful of the weather, okay? You don't want to be tackling huge wakes of water coming at you with a kaboat. You might be able to pull it off better with an inflatable dinghy. Now we're gonna talk about some of the advantages you will have if you were to choose a kaboat. As you can see, the boat is a lot narrower than a dinghy, which allows you to use a kayak paddle. You literally can paddle with these. Even though it comes with some oars, which can be used as an emergency. Same thing with the inflatable dinghy. You can actually kayak with these, an inflatable kayak, which is one of the beauties of it. Sometimes I'll be on the water and I just want a kayak. It has the ability, you can, if the waters are not too shallow, you can put your motor on idle and do like a paddle assist. While the motor is going on idle, you can just paddle. You get less tired. You can go even further. It's a pretty cool thing. Now we're gonna talk about the advantages of having a dinghy. As you can see, you have far more space. It is mainly to be used with a motor. I currently have this one paired up with my 6 horsepower. This one I pair up with my 4 horsepower Nissan. They're the same thing. They're made out of the same factory. They're the same engine. It's just smaller carburetor. One of the advantages of having a dinghy is that you get to have a much bigger transom, which can hold bigger motors. This one in specific, you can actually go with a 10, 15, 20 horsepower outboard just fine. But with this one, it's a lot smaller, so you're limited how big you can put in here. I believe that the website at Boats to Go says that the maximum you can put on this specific model, this is a Saturn SK385 XL model. You can only put about 10 horsepower outboard right here. So there are some limitations to these. However, for 1 or 2 people, it's perfect. If you want to go fast, get a 10 horsepower on one of these. You'll be flying. You don't need something bigger than that, because the most people you can fit in here is 2 comfortably. You can put 3, maybe 4. You guys gonna be a little bit tight. That's another thing I want to talk about the dinghy. When it comes into the dinghy, although I only have 1 seat on this one, I can fit 3 or 4 people right here. They can be sitting on the bladders on the floor. I have people come with me, and they usually sit at the end of it. I'll show you guys a little clip, and they'll be sitting on the front, pretty comfortable. That's one of the advantages of having a dinghy. So in reality, if you were to be in the market between a kaboat and a dinghy, it all comes down to what you're gonna be using it for the most part. Are you gonna be mostly on the ocean? Are you gonna be in intercoastal waterways for the most part, or rivers where the waters are not too wild? That's usually where a kaboat tends to shine. And the other advantage of having a kaboat is tends to be lighter and smaller. You can fit it in smaller places. Now, there are multiple brands out there. Okay, there's Aleco, there's Saturn, there's Sea Eagle, there is Lido Way, there is Briss. So there are multiple brands out there, and each one has, for the most part, they have their own way of doing things, but for the most part, they're the same. One thing I've noticed about Saturn on Boats to Go is that they tend to be more funky with their models. I'm gonna show you guys a quick model here. This is actually a kaboat. This is the CK430, Saturn CK430. It's actually considered a kaboat, but in reality, it is more of a dinghy than anything else. One thing that surprised me is that specific model tends to be just as light as that kaboat that I just showed you, my SK285, but it's a lot longer and a little bit wider inside. I don't know how they engineered it, but they did a pretty good job with that one, and that's pretty amazing. That's one thing you can go with You could probably paddle with one of those, but it can be a little bit tough for sure. You're probably better off using the oars that it comes with, to be honest. Now let's talk about longevity. I've owned this one for about 2.5 years already, and for those of you who follow my channel, you guys have seen I use it quite extensively, to the point that people recognize me in certain places when I go to. Recently I went to Huntoon Island and a gentleman recognized my boat and me. I was like, oh sweet. It's because, you know, it's very bright. These are made out of 1100 denier PVC, which is basically 2 layers of PVC sandwiching together a fabric inside, more like duct tape in a way, but a lot tougher. And so they're quite tough. They're quite durable. Very, very durable, actually. I usually keep mine on my own room, motors and everything, because I keep all my YouTube stuff in there. Some of you that have seen my videos, I've shown you that. I keep it indoors. And whenever I'm done using in salt water, usually when I use it in salt water, I wash them completely, including the motors. If I go to the lake or river, I usually just rinse it off with water. That's a good way to maintain it, keep it clean. Don't leave it exposed too long outside. For those of you who may have a sailboat or a yacht or a big boat and you need a tender, you're probably better off getting it's a specific material called Hypalon. I tried to spell it correctly at the bottom. Those tend to be tougher. They're meant to be exposed all the time out there and they last a long time. The PVC ones, you have to take care of them a little bit more. They're cheaper though. That's one good thing. They're very affordable. That's the cool thing. For a casual user like myself, these things last forever, to be honest with you. I've had multiple ones that have yet to fail me. They have been great to me. But yeah, as you guys can see, you can visually see the differences between a dinghy and a kaboat. It's all up to you guys which step you can do. You can actually use a pool noodle. You can lay it down on the floor, right below the floor. You might have to use a different PSI. The floor uses 10 PSI. You may have to use maybe 7 or 8 PSI in order to fit a pool noodle and give it like a pseudo keel. That's one way to do it if you want to do that. But yeah, those are the differences and similarities of a kaboat and a dinghy. So guys, I want to thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the fellow viewer who suggested this video. I did not mention his name because I never got his okay to do so, but however, thank you. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.